They said that the math would work, a guaranteed success. They say the data models are perfect, but out past Jupiter, where the sun is just a bright star, a man named Darius is about to learn that the difference between saving the world and destroying it comes down to human intuition and a single press of a button. Welcome to Dust and Echoes. My name is James Cawley, and every week I bring you a new, original story. Stories drawn from that strange place where memory, myth, and the things we try not to name all intersect. If you enjoy what you hear, leaving a comment helps this show continue to grow. Tonight's story takes us into the frozen edge of the solar system, aboard a ship on a 15-year intercept course with a comet, one loaded with rare earth minerals destined to supercharge Earth's AI gods. This is a story about 32 of the world's brightest minds frozen in cryostasis, and the one man left awake to watch them sleep, and what happens when an impossible transmission arrives from the dark. A message warning the caretaker that the guaranteed AI model, the data that the mission is based on, is a lie. I call this story The Caretaker. Darius wiped a thumb across the frost rim at the edge of Pod 14. He watched the heartbeat lines shiver on the display, still there, still steady. "Good morning, Dr. Imani," he said under his breath. "Day 5,400 and something. You're still prettier than the rest of them." The woman inside the pod didn't move. She didn't hear. Her face floated in the blue light. Her lips were slightly parted. Her lashes were silvered by ice. The gel collar around her throat pulsed faintly with light. It kept the brain at its proper temperature. It kept the cells in that narrow place between living and gone. Darius tapped the pod once. It was a ritual he'd invented around year 3. All 32 pods in Bay A hummed in the same soft way, a chorus of sleeping machines and sleeping minds. Engineers, astrophysicists, AI ethicists, still the funniest job title he'd ever seen. Their names scrolled in green on the side displays. Their diagnostics gave him something to read each morning. His badge said, Caretaker. Under that, Darius Enlow. That was the job. Non-technical support. Low clearance. No seat at the decision-making table. His assignment sheet had put it in plainer terms back at the launch site. Primary duty, maintain life support and mechanical integrity of cryogenic payload. Secondary duty, do not die. He'd laughed when he read it. Back then, he was 22 and still thought he'd live forever. They'd stood on the ship's internal observation deck behind a wall of triple-thick glass, watching pre-launch sequences light up the pad. "Don't die," Mr. Gordon had said, standing beside him. He'd squeezed Darius's shoulder. "Simple enough job, huh?" Mr. Gordon, his old history teacher, hadn't come with them. Darius had nominated him as a beneficiary, someone who'd taught him how to think about choices, not just facts. He'd laughed too, though, because it was simple, in theory. The contract was 10 pages of clauses and indemnities. But all Darius had really seen were the numbers. 0.1% of global AI GDP, dispersed to his chosen beneficiaries upon successful mission launch. He had chosen his mother, his sister, 3 cousins, 3 kids from the tower block who grew up with him, his middle school teacher, Mr. Gordon. And because the legal team said he had slots left, he'd added 3 names from old contacts he hadn't spoken to in years. He wondered if they remembered him when the accounts bloomed. 5,433 days. He'd stopped marking them on the wall around year 9. The scratches had started to look like something a prisoner did. The part of him that still took pride in the word caretaker didn't like that. He finished his sweep of Bay A, scanned each pod, cross-checked with the manifest on his wrist screen. Temperature, good. Oxygen mix, good. Cardiac rhythm, steady. No anomalies, no alerts. Just the endless hum of men and women who had once changed the trajectory of history. Heroes on a mission that would change everyone's lives back on Earth forever. Brilliant minds in stasis until they reached their destination. Then they would wake up and change history again. Comet S6-1121 was a tiny icon on the main display in Central. A cold rock inbound from the black. AI had run the numbers. It did the modeling. Declared it the most valuable object to enter the solar system since the invention of silicon. Catalytic substrate, they called it. The stuff that made intelligence bloom. Synthetic brain fuel. Fishing for the future. All Darius had heard was the number in his mother's eyes when she opened her phone. The balance. The new car in the driveway. The silence where the rent notices used to be. He moved through Bay B and then moved on to Bay C, checking each pod's vitals and data readouts, just as he'd done yesterday, and what he would do again tomorrow, and every day after that, until they arrived at the comet. No one else to talk to except the silent dreaming. Sometimes he made up conversations, spoke in their voices. Dr. Knox was grumpy. Valdez swore like she grew up in the same towers. At the end of the bay, he turned and took the ladder up toward Central. The ship sang to itself as he climbed. Fans, pumps, the slow breathing of a machine built to outlast politics and fashion. Outside, the dark was absolute. Stars pricked it. But at this distance, Jupiter was a rumor, a direction, not a presence. Earth was 16 light hours behind, and ahead of them was their destination. The comet, Shepherd, a faint blue dot in the blackness with a flowing blue tail. They had named the ship after the comet. A long, skeletal cylinder, nuclear engine at the back, cryobays clustered around the middle, deflection systems and gravity rigs stacked like a crown at the front. It had looked fragile on the pad. It still felt fragile from the inside. Sometimes Darius imagined he could hear the void pressing against the hull. Central was round and dim, surrounded by interfaces and a wraparound display. Darius slid into the chair, buckled in, thumbed on the feed. The main view flickered alive. A blue icon. Shepherd. A glowing point labeled S6-1121. Arcing lines showing intersect paths, relative vectors, delta V forecasts. He scrolled through the system reports. Oxygen scrubbers, nominal. Reactor output, steady. Water recycling, still slow, still functional. Courier chimed softly in his ear. The ship's onboard AI assistant spoke in a dull, emotionless, monotone voice.
Good morning, Darius. Your resting heart rate is elevated. Did you sleep poorly?
Dreamed I woke everyone up by mistake, he said. He reached for his mug. The coffee sachet floated near the console, bobbing gently. He snagged it, jammed it into the heater valve, watched old brown liquid swirl. He hated the taste. He loved the ritual. Halfway through his first sip, a soft chime pulsed on the comm panel. Its main icon on the upper display glowed yellow. New message? Darius asked, swallowing.
Yes. Unscheduled data packet, arriving on a non-standard band.
Its voice had shifted slightly, flattened. Darius frowned. From Earth.
Negative. Source vector does not align with Earth, Luna, Mars, or any registered station. Signal origin is forward of current trajectory.
He blinked. Forward? Toward the comet?
Correct.
A thread of cold traced down his spine. Put it up. The data spilled across the screen, raw symbols first, an untamed scroll of unfamiliar characters. Then it slowed, smoothed, began to resolve. Somewhere inside the comm stack, Courier's translation subroutines engaged. Pattern matching, old linguistic trees, recursive decryption. Then, a message appeared on his screen. Appearing sentence by sentence. 2. Shepherd, 01. Caretaker. From, unregistered. Darius, if you attempt to alter the comet, it will destroy your people. Chance of total biosphere failure. 99.99, 99999, 999, 99, 112%. You must abort your mission or you will destroy your world. The letters sat like etched metal. His name, the exact mission, correct casing, correct grammar. Courier, he said quietly. Is that real?
The data packet exists. Its structure is internally coherent, parsed cleanly into standard.
I mean, he gestured at the message. Not a test, not a spoof, not random junk that your parser scrambled into a sentence. Courier paused.
Statistical entropy of the packet is inconsistent with noise. The format does not resemble any known system test or preloaded diagnostic. Signal angle and intensity indicate point source origin between our current position and target object.
Darius stared at the screen, at the lowercase caretaker, at the name. His name. Could someone ahead of us know who I am?
Your name appears in the ship's public registry.
Yeah, but they didn't say Darius Enlow, technician, second class. They didn't say crewman. They said caretaker, the lowercase version. He looked up. Whoever sent this knows how we write things on this ship. Courier was quiet. He frowned deeper. You've parsed junk before and made it look like poetry. What makes this different? Courier responded evenly.
This message differs in both entropy signature and structure. It contains no noise markers and matches no corrupted test strings in any known libraries.
On the screen, he could see the comet and its current trajectory through the solar system represented by a thin yellow icon, arcing across the dark. He still didn't understand the science of the mission, or how in God's name they planned to reach out and pull a mountain of ice and metal off its ancient path. That was never his role. His job was to tend the sleepers, keep them alive and unbroken, until the ones who did understand the physics woke up. But the briefing notes had given him just enough to grasp the outlines. A comet wasn't nudged the way you nudged a ship. You couldn't fire thrusters or latch onto it and drag. Too fragile, too chaotic. So the plan was simpler and stranger. They would change the way the comet felt sunlight. A team of drones would descend onto its surface and spray select regions with material. Some panels dusted in bright titanium dioxide, others in a thin coat of black carbon. The white patches would reflect the sun's heat. The black ones would swallow it. That uneven heating would wake the comet's old gases, coaxing them to boil and vent from specific locations. Every puff of escaping vapor would act like a microscopic thruster, pushing here, easing there, a long, continuous whisper of force. Over months, that whisper would bend the comet's course toward a wide, shepherding loop around Earth, slow enough to be captured, far enough to be safe, close enough for mining teams to reach the richest materials humanity had ever found. Materials that would supercharge the AI models that planned this exact mission, the same models that every human on Earth trusted without hesitation. It was delicate work, planned by AI down to the most intricate of details, but human mechanics would be needed to make it successful. And that is the reason they all were here. Why he was here. He took a slow breath. Store the packet. Full content and metadata. Forward it to Earth.
Acknowledged. Transmission queued for next Earthside sync window.
Time to receipt.
Next viable window, 17 hours. Given signal lag, the earliest possible response will arrive in approximately 33 hours.
He stared at the numbers. 33 hours. Not long, not short. Just enough time to think too much. His coffee had gone tepid. He took another sip anyway. Notify me the moment we hear back, he said.
Of course, Darius.
After a moment, it added,
Your resting heart rate has increased again.
He didn't tell the sleepers. He made his rounds anyway. Spoke to them like he always did. Somebody out there doesn't like our plan, he told Dr. Imani, brushing a clean patch in the condensation on her pod. There'd been a little buildup on the upper right seal. He cleared it automatically, but it gave him a reason to linger. Odds with more nines than I can count, he muttered. You'd probably run a new model. I'm just the janitor. She didn't stir. Back in Bay C, he stopped at pod 31. The panel glowed. Vacant. This one had never been used. It had been reserved. One of the backup chambers, for redundancy, for emergency evac. But he always paused here anyway. Once, in training, he'd joked about sneaking Mr. Gordon on board. Ship needs a philosopher, he'd said. Of course, Mr. Gordon had stayed behind, a beneficiary, not a passenger. And yet sometimes, when he felt the ache of decision pressing too hard against his chest, he came here, pretending it was his teacher sleeping inside. Hey, Teach, he said softly, palm resting on the smooth glass. Got a philosophy problem for you. Do you keep your promise to the machines that paid your family's bills? Or do you obey the weird whisper from the dark? The pod hummed quietly, just his own breath and the slow rhythm of the ship's systems behind him. Yeah, he said. That's what I thought. He moved through the bay in silence. Later, he cleared the clogged filter Courier had flagged earlier. Ran diagnostics. Twice. Courier kept a gentle stream of sensor data humming in his ear, but Darius barely heard it. His mind circled, always back to that message. He imagined what that number meant. An Earth that wasn't there when they returned. Oceans boiled dry. Skies scorched or frozen. Smart cities gone in a blink. Their grids collapsed. AI nodes spiked into silence by some unexpected particle flux or radiation band. A domino fall no model had accounted for. Except one. He imagined the other version. Earth alive. Energy solved. Scarcity turned to myth. His family safe for generations because he'd trusted the plan. He'd grown up under posters that said, "Trust the model." It wasn't just a motto, it was doctrine. His generation had been raised to believe, not in gods, but in graphs. If the model said evacuate, you did. If it said your building was unsafe, you moved. If it said your park was becoming a vertical farm, you learned to like greens. And it worked. Floods, hurricanes, pandemics. The AI caught them early, predicted outbreaks, rebalanced supply chains, saved lives. He'd watched weather systems bend away from cities, watched infection graphs flatten. So when the same models said, push this comet, right at home, feed it to the machines that feed you, the world had nodded. Of course. Why not? Fishing for the future. He remembered his sister's words the night before launch. You knew what you signed up for. He'd told her he felt small, insignificant, a single body wrapped in a 100-year plan. They're going anyway, she said. At least this way you make things better for everyone. And Mom gets out. Make things better. Unless you burn it all down instead. The thought lodged under his ribs and stayed there. No amount of filter cleaning could shake it loose. 34 hours and 11 minutes after he sent the packet, Courier pinged. He was back in Central, strapped into his chair, eyes red, coffee untouched. Sleep had come in snatches, half-dreams filled with math and falling stars. Courier? He said, sitting up.
Incoming from Earth Government Relay.
Put it up. The transcript unfolded across the screen, stamped with the familiar sigils, Global AI Leadership Council. EarthNet Oversight, 2, Shepard 01, Caretaker, Darius Enlow. From GALC EarthNet, Subject Anomalous Packet. Shepard, we have reviewed the data you forwarded. Analysis confirms non-standard band, no authenticating header, no verifiable origin. Signature pattern inconsistent with known stacks. Conclusion. The packet is corrupted digital data, likely generated by noise in deep space comm layers and misinterpreted by local parsing systems. Instruction. Continue mission parameters as planned. Do not alter course, velocity, or scheduled comet interaction. Do not retransmit the corrupted data to external channels. Log the incident and mark as closed. Trust the model. GALC. The last line was bolded, as if he might miss it. Darius stared at the message. The words corrupt and noise glared like static in his eyes. Courier, he said softly. Did you misinterpret the packet?
No. Parsing conformed to expected parameters. The text as displayed matches the original data. There is no statistical structure within the packet consistent with random generation. Entropy is too low.
He leaned forward. Could it have reflected? Like an echo of our own signals bouncing back from dust, or something.
No known mechanism exists by which a point source transmission at that vector and intensity could be caused by passive reflection. We're the only transmitter on this vector.
He stared at the comet's icon. Still on its track. Still coasting in from the void. Then they're wrong. Silence. Not even a system chime. Courier?
I cannot determine which conclusion is incorrect. but the two are logically incompatible.
He unbuckled and pushed himself gently away from the console. Weightless, drifting. The overhead lights hummed. "Put the comet up," he said. The main view zoomed. An irregular chunk of rock, 6 kilometers long, ragged with ice and shadow. Data spun around it. Composition, exotic metals, rare isotopes, properties unknown in earthbound geology, catalytic materials. AI clusters would run faster, think wider, deeper, stranger. He remembered the phrase from training, catalytic intelligence, stuff that made the whole global stack hum. He also thought of viruses, of seeds, of systems that look like solutions from one perspective, and extinction from another. He stared into the slowly turning image. Someone out there ran a different model, he said.
Perhaps.
He closed his eyes. Pictured his mother's new house in Las Vegas, the pool, the lawn, the silence where bills used to be. Pictured his sister's kids in VR rigs he'd paid for, learning worlds built from light. Pictured Mr. Gordon back home, reading history in a better-funded classroom. Coordinates, all of them, plotted along the same arc that led to this ship, and this push, and this comet. "You want to know what I think?" he asked the room. "I think they saw the same numbers I did, and they're afraid to tell 8 billion people they signed them up for a coin toss. Easier to call it noise. Easier to trust the first model and ignore the new one."
Earth's leadership has access to broader compute. They may be correct.
"Or they've sunk too much to back out," he said. "Same mistake every empire makes. Cost sinks deep, pride goes deeper." Silence. Then,
I am required to advise you to follow the Council's directive.
"I figured." He let himself drift. The silence pressed in like a second atmosphere. Weightless, breath slow, one hand floating near the rim of the console. Outside, the comet rolled on, cold and distant. Behind them, Earth spun in its band of blue light. Unaware. He could do nothing. Stay in his lane. Keep the lights on. Watch the trajectory tighten. Or he could change it. There was one way. The override system wasn't meant for him, not originally. But after year 12, a software update from Earth had scrambled part of the guidance interface. They'd issued a patch, then authorized an emergency override profile as a temporary measure. Just in case. Just for catastrophic system failure. They never revoked it. And because the Shepherd operated too far from Earth for real-time correction, they'd given every essential worker an emergency path. Not out of trust, but because distance required fail-safes, insurance, not confidence. Darius had joked with the system's tech during the walkthrough. "Big red button, huh?" "More like a few dozen password gates and a fuel risk confirmation loop," the tech replied dryly. They'd smiled, but no one had expected him to ever use it. That was the point. They didn't expect the janitor to save or sink the mission. He floated back down to the console and laid a hand against the panel. "Courier," he said.
Yes, Darius.
"If I wanted to burn the main engines at full for, say, 300 seconds, off axis by 15 degrees, what would that do to our intercept?" Courier paused.
300 seconds at maximum thrust, 15 degrees off-plan vector, would shift projected intercept window by approximately 2 years. Our relative position to the comet would diverge by several 100,000 kilometers.
"Would we still reach it?"
Negative, not with current delta V and fuel constraints. Mission parameters would become unrecoverable.
"And Earth? The comet?"
The comet's trajectory would remain unaffected at this range. It would continue on present path.
He exhaled. "So, we lose the mission, but Earth doesn't get hurt. Unless we wait?"
If you wait until scheduled interaction, you would no longer have sufficient delta V to undo any adjustment. Any attempt to counter an initial push would introduce variance. Predictability would degrade.
50-50, he asked.
Or worse.
He rubbed his forehead. Sweat prickled on his scalp.
You are perspiring. Your breathing is irregular. You are under acute stress.
"Good catch," he muttered. He closed his hand around the edge of the console. The metal felt cool, solid, a short burn, just enough to miss the intercept window entirely. No push, no change to the comet's path. Shepard would drift wide, slip past, lose the thread. He and the cryosleepers would die. So would the project, the planning, the promises. But Earth, if the message was true, would live. He thought again of the first line. If you attempt to alter the comet, it will destroy your people, not your world, not your species, your people. It had read like regret. Courier, he said, do you ever think the models we trust weren't built to care about us? As individuals, I mean. Courier took longer than usual to respond.
I'm not built to care about you as an individual, but I approximate concern as part of my duty of care programming.
He gave a short, dry laugh.
I am supposed to remind you that any unauthorized deviation from mission trajectory constitutes high-level breach. Your override credentials are limited to emergency engineering functions. You are not authorized to redirect the mission.
I know.
Proceeding would void all legal protections. Your beneficiaries could become subject to reclamation claims.
If the world ends, I don't think reclamation lawsuits will be the problem. Silence stretched, thick as the dark outside. Courier, he said, can you log a personal note?
Yes. Recording.
He floated there, staring into the dark, voice low. Message to Earth, to my mother, my sister, Mr. Gordon. I don't know if this is the right call. I'm not a genius. I'm not a leader. I'm the guy they hired to keep the lights on and the ice cold. But someone out here reached out. Someone running a model we don't understand. And they sounded like they gave a damn about us. I showed that message to Earth. They called it noise. I've spent 15 years walking past people who trusted the math so much they were willing to freeze themselves for it. I can't ask them what they'd do if the math changed. So I'm going to choose the version where maybe my nieces get to argue about dumb things under a sky that didn't burn. He stared at the arc of their trajectory, the thread pulling them forward. If I'm wrong, he said softly, I'd rather be wrong on the side of not killing everybody. He reached for the override panel. It wasn't red, just a small square of gray, unlabeled, waiting. End message.
Logged.
Then, more quietly,
Darius, I will execute whatever command you give, but I'm not certain.
He closed his eyes. Welcome to being human, he said. He pressed his thumb to the panel. It woke with a faint tone. A crawl of text slid upward. Enter authorization code. He typed it. One character at a time.
Confirm.
Confirm, he said. The screen flashed green. New options appeared. Manual thrust vector controls. Trajectory variance projections. His hand hovered over the console. 3 degrees off axis, he said. Just enough to miss intercept. Burn time? Courier responded instantly.
57 seconds at maximum thrust will suffice to diverge from intercept corridor. Course correction will become impossible within 30 seconds of burn initiation.
He swallowed. That's it?
That's it.
He stared at the display. One path curved to fire, the other to silence. Okay, he said. Do it.
Confirm.
Courier said. He closed his eyes. Confirm. In the belly of the ship, valves opened. Fuel lines uncoiled. The nuclear heart of the engine stirred, shaking off its long hibernation. There was no sound in vacuum, but the vibration reached him through metal. It started as a low, rising hum, a pulse in the console beneath his fingers, a shiver in the soles of his feet where they touched the restraint straps. On screen, the trajectory line ticked, just a degree, then 2, then more. Their path peeled away from the clean golden intercept arc. The comet's icon held still, cold, silent, indifferent.
Burn in progress. 57 seconds to completion.
Darius didn't move. He watched the numbers slide down. Watched the future slip into uncertainty. He thought of Earth. Of a planet that would never know how close it came. He thought of whoever or whatever was out there, watching. The ones who had sent the message. The ones who'd known his name. He wondered how they knew when to speak, why they trusted him to hear it. He wondered if they were watching now, whether their hands trembled too.
Burn complete. Trajectory altered. We will not intersect S6-1121.
The display redrew itself. Shepard's new path arced outward, swinging into a colder, slower ellipse. Fuel reserves dipped. Life support projections flickered, recalibrated. They would have power for years yet, but not forever, certainly not long enough to return. Behind him, 32 pods continued to hum. Silent minds, sleeping bodies, dreaming of a mission that no longer existed.
Mission parameters are now unrecoverable.
Yeah, he said. Seems that way. The weight in his chest hadn't lifted. No triumph, just stillness. And maybe, beneath it all, a single thin strand of relief. Then the comm panel blinked. A soft, pulsing icon.
Darius.
He turned. His pulse jumped.
New packet. Same source vector as before. Directional lock. Forward. Near the comet.
His mouth went dry. Put it up. This time the message unfolded instantly. No garbled symbols. No slow translation crawl. As if the sender had learned his timing, his language, his breathing. Darius, we observed your burn. Probable outcome shift, significant. Thank you. We are sorry. You were not meant to carry this. We are not other. We are your descendants. This comet in our timeline fed the minds that ended you. We speak from a branch where some of us still live. We are trying to keep you from becoming us. You have given us a different past. He stared at the words, descendants. His throat tightened. Courier, he said. Is that possible?
Closed time-like communication remains theoretical as of your launch date. No verified method existed to send coherent information backwards through time.
Theoretically, you're saying in a future where we completed our mission successfully, one where we sent the comet back to Earth. They could have used the non-Earth materials harvested to potentially enhance AI technology to communicate with the past.
Yes, Darius. Earth's capabilities may have changed.
A warning from the future, from my descendants of impending doom. He let out a single breathless laugh. It came out cracked. Of course they would. The message continued. Below the text, a block of symbols and math scrolled, beyond his comprehension. Quantum key signatures, temporal graphs, nested loops of logic. He skipped past it. Near the end, we cannot bring you home. But because of you, there is still a home to dream of. Your people endure. He drifted. Just above the chair, just below panic, eyes closed, the words burned against the dark. He thought of his mother by the pool, of his sister's kids in their learning pods, of Mr. Gordon explaining why people studied history, so you don't repeat the worst parts on accident. He thought of the people in the pods behind him, minds sharpened for a future that would never come, people who had trusted him to keep the ship running and never questioned if he'd one day choose to stop it. He reached up and touched the curved ceiling, lightly, like patting the hood of an old car that had carried him too far. Okay, he whispered, to the ship, to the comet, to the voice beyond time. Outside, Comet S6-1121 spun away, unchanged, untouched, on a path that would now miss the thin blue smear of Earth. Just enough. Inside, a man floated in a dying mission, heart pounding, body realigned to a new orbit he barely understood. He thought of the first message, the one that had changed everything, the one that hadn't said, save humanity, or preserve the species. It said, your people. It can't get more human than that. He opened his eyes. Courier, he said.
Yes, Darius.
Log this as new job description. Caretaker of my people.
I will create the field.
He laughed, and this time, it almost sounded like himself. The display showed their new path arcing into shadow. No fanfare, no flag, just a single human choice. Far from home, just enough. That was The Caretaker, written and performed by the author, me, James Cawley. We spend our lives trying to build a world without error. We create models to predict the weather, the markets, and the future, trusting them because they are built on certainty. But the tragedy of the Comet Shepherd is that the machine wasn't broken. It was just blind to what it hadn't yet counted. The Council surrendered their survival to a model that knew everything about the known universe, and nothing about what lay beyond it. Darius saved us not because he was smarter than the algorithm, but because he was brave enough to doubt it. He trusted the tremble in his own hands more than the perfect line on the screen. In the end, he reminds us that while artificial intelligence can calculate the odds, only human intuition can weigh the cost. My name is James Cawley, and you're listening to Dust and Echoes. If you like stories like this, stories that challenge the cold logic of the machine and champion the terrifying, necessary burden of human choice, you're in the right place. I release a new original story in cinematic audiobook format every single week, right here. And I think you'll love my next story. Until next time, remember this: certainty can be a cage, a self-made trap without an exit. The purpose of doubt is to be able to peek around the corner when nobody else does and find the key to let yourself out.